All good?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. So thanks very much. Previous talkers, I knew there was a reason I'm becoming very interested in these tiny little leaf mining insects, especially when they're so important for plant fitness and health. So I'm just going to summarize some of the records that I've been putting together over the last 2 years under lockdown regarding a really important genus which we should be knowing a lot more about. And my co-author here is one of my students who I mentioned in this presentation. So leaf mining is particularly ancient form of herbivory, and it's also a really important form of herbivory. So it's helped us understand the evolution of a lot of strategies of herbivory through time, and primarily because it leaves a beautiful record. So in this picture here that I just grabbed on the weekend, you can see a lovely leaf mine here. And I grabbed this picture because these mines here look incredibly like the mines that have started to get interested lately. So it is an ancient form of herbivory. As Ying just said, it's leaf mining or endophagy is particularly well developed in the Lepidoptera, especially the Monotricia, the micromoths, who are particularly ancient lineage dating back Jurassic, early Cretaceous time. I focus here on the Adaloidea, the superfamily in which bugs, Heliozelids occur. You can see rough time intervals here. What's interesting, I suppose, is that when you look at the evolutionary history of these moths and you compare it to eucalypts, they're obviously much more ancient. Their ancestors are probably much more ancient than eucalypts. So these leaf cutter and paste-bearing moths are probably predate the eucalypts. And that is probably why we see some of these amazing strategies, biological strategies of post-utilization. Getting now to the genus Perthida, which is the one that I'm interested in. I notice my screen just hung a bit. Ian Common erected the genus in 1969 to accommodate a group of moths from southern Australia, which have the leaf mining form of biology, but which towards the end of their larval development cut out these little cases from the leaves using the top and the bottom of the epidermis of the leaf, in which they then drop out of the leaf and fall to the ground, and that's the little protective benefit they get from mining the leaves and using the epidermis to protect themselves when they're the very delicate larval life cycle stage, and then as the pre-pupae and pupae. Nielsen, in his catalogue, describes 4 species. These are the ones that are presently listed on the ALA. Nielsen and Common in their book suggested that there were probably more than 30 species of Perthida in Australia. Talking to Andreas Wick and someone going back through the Annick collection, in the Annick collection there are approximately 60 unnamed species of Perthida sitting there. So Perthida is probably the most common member of the family Incivaridae in Australia, which is why it's quite shocking that we know so little about it. So these are the 17 records of Perthida on the ALA, and the record that I put in last year is the first for Victoria, and I'm going to take you through some of the information I've gleaned about that in that time. So what do we know about Perthida? Well, Fortunately, as in the way in Australia, we did have an era where basic biology and population dynamics was big, of insects was big, and we were world leading authorities. So we know one of these species, Perthida glyphopa, really well. It's the Jarrow leaf miner, little picture of the moth up here. Originally included in the genus Tanea, Taneidae, the family Taneidae. It's endemic to southwestern Western Australia. As with all the micromoths, quite small, so 6 millimeters wingspan across. Hosts a Jarrow and Todatiana occasionally, and an undescribed species of Perthida uses flooded gum in the same forests. The reason they got so much attention in the 60s through to the 80s is that their outbreaks became very serious in Jarrow forests and could last for decades. And this chronic defoliation, as we often see in eucalypts, leads to recession of the crown and reduce, obviously, trunk increment. So really important, a forestry pest, and that's why this species got quite a bit of attention. Biology of Glyphopa is that when the female moths emerge, they seek out leaves that are somewhere between 6 to 18 months old. They slip one of these very oddly shaped little eggs under the epidermis of the leaf. Some people say there may be a difference inside of the leaf. It's hard to know which one that might be, but larval development typically it takes about 5 months and occurs during the winter period. Towards the end of the larval period, the larva starts making its little case out of the top and the bottom of the leaf epidermis, which it then cuts out, which then drops to the forest floor. This usually occurs in September, October. The caterpillar then drags its little case down into cracks and fissures in the soil, centimeter or 2 centimeters down, where it estivates over the summer until sometime towards the end of February, when it pupates roughly, from what we know, for about a month before emerging and starting the life cycle again. So this is the only known biology for Perthida that we have, and a lot of my assumptions are based on this. So a bit of a run through of the new records that I've compiled, and a disclaimer. I have been stuck behind this desk in my study undergraduate teaching since March 2020 till October 2021. Literally haven't got up from that chair, it seems to me. So all my fieldwork I talk about is being conducted by students with guidance from me. So last year when I was teaching my subject animal-plant interactions, there's a particular assessment I get students to do, which is to make a poster of some form of herbivory, and we try and document it and understand it. And Eden Carson sent me this picture from up near Joyce's Creek. When she first sent it to me, a bit of a bad quality picture. I was a bit thrown. I thought for a moment it could have been psyllid damage, but where is the lerp? It wasn't really that right. I flicked it to a couple of forest entomologist colleagues, one of whom got back to me and said, looks like a baby leaf blister sawfly. Slight typo. I wasn't happy with that because it doesn't look like the start of leaf blister sawfly to me. So I asked Eden to tag some of the leaves, follow them, and watch what might be happening here, and then harvest them. She did that, and in October she was able to send me these pictures where she picked off. She's got a larva just about to start making its case. Here another one's dropped out, and she collected quite a few of the leaves to get the little cases dropping out of the leaf. So that confirmed for me that it is Perthida, as I suspected. Still doesn't answer the question which of the two species it is that has been described from. Victoria, whether it's Tetraspila or Pentaspila or some other unknown species. So second new record came from my co-author, Stacey Phillips. She had this suckering Eucalyptus leucoxylon in her backyard. She was asking me what all these blotches were. I said, oh, that's leaf blister sulfide, but I'm really interested in these little dots here. That's Perthida. Can you try and collect me some? So we started talking about how to go about this. What I thought was interesting is that, and as my title alludes to, I think these leaf blister sawfly mines have probably helped disguise the presence of Perthida in numerous places, such as Victoria, for some time. So it's probably been flying under the radar for a while. Just recently, I just thought I'd put this in to show you how beautifully neat these holes are. They really are very characteristic. If the hole looks jagged, it's probably not Perthida. So some of these holes here are probably not Perthida, but these beautifully neat holes are definitely Perthida. And then, lo and behold, and partly prompted by my putting Eden's picture up on iNaturalist, I suspect, John Lanigan posted this picture of a little moth, which he originally thought was Tonidae, but then Axel Callies jumped online and said, no, it's incurved. Then Victor Fazio jumped on and said, oh, that's a Perthida species. It looks like Annex species 8, which is on the Bold website. So they beat us to actually having a picture of the moth, as we'll see in a moment. And so subsequently, the records have started to actually start coming in quite quickly. John, again, posted from down at Anglesey. Can't quite work out whether it's the same moth or two pictures. Again, light sheeting, so we have no host plant records. Then another picture from Stacey when she was out at Bendigo of characteristic mines on Polyanthemus, which is really interesting. Juvenile Polyanthemus, really interesting perspective on host use there. And then other records have started coming in. I've just noticed what the time's got up to, and I'm a person checking myself, so I better get on with it. Some of the information here, it looks like Camaugelensis is the preferred host. This use of leucoxylon is possibly a once-off. Some of the high numbers are getting up pretty high, 17 mines in a leaf, so that's pretty high. We did some, I got Stacey to do some bagging of mined leaves starting in September this year. Characteristic way of doing this. One of the cases sort of opened on the 9th of November, and we saw a discolored larva, pretty moribund looking. And then she opened up another case on 16th of November. It's definitely a Perthida larva. According to Mazanek's images, it's probably a pre-estivating larvae. So that gives us some idea that it's following Glyphopa's biology. So to summarize, there's at least one species of Perthida that's widespread and abundant in Victoria. Two endemic eucalypts are hosts. Camaugelensis could be a bridging host for it. Leucoxylon could be a spillover host that it's using. Seems to be two different seasonal phenologies, one that looks very Glyphopa-like, but adults emerging in April is odd. They're John's records. And so I just want to conclude that this is quite amazing. We should be paying more attention to it. The outbreaks of the two Perthida species in Western Australia occurred very quickly and were associated with disturbance events. So perhaps we're seeing something similar here. And we really need to get some more information about this. And just to conclude, just say thanks to all the people who've sort of been following instructions and putting this stuff together for me in absence of me being able to get out and do the work myself. And so without further ado, I will stop sharing. And since we're on time, I think I better hand straight over